In the frozen heart of Wisconsin, where the echoes of Lombardi still haunt the sidelines and every Sunday feels like a pilgrimage, the Green Bay Packers are quietly writing one of the most unexpected storylines of the NFL season. What began as a desperate decision born out of injury, concern, and performance anxiety has turned into a fascinating chess match that could define the very trajectory of the Packers' 2025 campaign. Sunday Night Football in Pittsburgh was supposed to be just another test for a young team learning to close out games, but instead it became a proving ground for resilience and redemption. The Packers trailed early against the Steelers, looking disorganized and uncertain. Brandon McManus, the veteran kicker brought in to bring reliability to special teams, was anything but reliable. 2 missed field goals in the first half drained momentum and left fans questioning whether his early season injury had really healed or whether the team had brought him back too soon. By the time the fourth quarter rolled around, the Packers were fighting not only the Steelers but their own doubts. Yet in that struggle, something shifted. The offense found rhythm, the defense stiffened, and the special teams became a question mark with consequences that reached beyond one game. Because waiting in the wings stood Lukas Havrisik, a player whose name had barely registered in NFL circles, but whose performance in recent weeks had begun to turn heads across the league. When McManus was sidelined with a quad injury earlier this season, Havrisik had been called upon to hold the line. Instead of merely surviving, he excelled, going a perfect 4 for 4 on field goals and 6 for 6 on extra point attempts. He showed poise under pressure, calm in the storm, and a consistency that has eluded even seasoned veterans in 2025. But the real story was not his accuracy, it was how the Packers handled him. Most teams would have placed Havrisik on the practice squad, giving themselves flexibility without long-term commitment. The Packers did the opposite. They signed him directly to the 53-man roster, a move that seemed unnecessary to some and reckless to others, but that single decision prevented rival teams from poaching him. Teams like the Jaguars, the Rams, and the Saints, all of whom have suffered through inconsistent kicking performances, would have pounced on a player showing that kind of precision and mental toughness. By keeping him protected, Green Bay effectively bought themselves insurance against the very situation that unfolded on Sunday. When McManus returned, many assumed Havrisik would be released immediately to free up a roster spot. Instead, head coach Matt LaFleur and general manager Brian Gutekunst chose to keep both kickers on the roster, at least temporarily. That choice raised eyebrows around the league. With roster spots being precious and injuries piling up every week, few teams can afford the luxury of 2 active kickers. But on Sunday night, the logic behind that gamble crystallized. McManus missed again twice in critical moments, and the Packers' sideline began to tighten. Havrisik, though inactive for the night, remained on the sideline, watching and waiting, and somewhere in that decision to keep him, the Packers front office may have secured the stability they will need down the stretch of a long, grueling season. The implications reach far beyond one game or one position. In a league where the margin between victory and defeat can be a single missed kick, the Packers now find themselves with rare leverage. Instead of scrambling to find a replacement or enduring another cycle of inconsistency, they have options. They can trade McManus, who, despite his veteran status, is currently the least accurate kicker in the league by percentage. Or they can lean into youth and confidence and give Havrisik the reins for the remainder of the season. Either path offers benefits, but only one represents the boldness that has quietly defined this front office in recent years. And make no mistake, other teams are watching across the league. There are franchises desperate for stability at kicker. The Jaguars, Rams, Commanders, Saints, and Lions all find themselves below 75% in field goal accuracy. The trade deadline looms on November 4th, and conversations are already happening behind the scenes about potential moves. Green Bay now sits in a position of power with an asset that most teams would undervalue, but every contender knows can make or break a playoff run. There is an unspoken truth in football that every coach and player understands. When you are fighting for your season, every detail matters. Every snap, every tackle, every decision can shift momentum and alter destiny. In that light, the Packers' move to protect Havrisik was not just roster management, it was an act of vision, the kind of decision that looks minor on a transaction sheet but monumental in hindsight. The Packers have built their legacy on preparation and precision, from favor to Rodgers, and now Jordan Love, the franchise, has always found ways to reinvent itself without losing its core identity, but special teams have often been their Achilles heel. Haunted by missed opportunities in January and the ghosts of playoff heartbreak, that is why this moment feels different, because this time the organization acted before the crisis struck, and in doing so, they may have found the stability that has eluded them for years. Now the question is, what comes next? Does Green Bay ride the experience and reputation of McManus, hoping he can rediscover his form before the stretch run? Or do they embrace the future with Havrisik, whose youth and consistency could provide the confidence this locker room needs heading into the brutal winter months? Either way, the clock is ticking, and the decision will echo through Lambeau Field long after the final whistle of Week 8. The Packers' season, once on the brink of mediocrity, now carries a sense of renewed purpose. Their comeback win over Pittsburgh was not just another tally in the standings. It was a statement of identity, of resilience, and of calculated risk in a sport defined by inches and decisions made under pressure. The Packers made theirs early and decisively, and that might just be the difference between a playoff berth and a missed opportunity. So, as November approaches and the frost begins to settle over the Midwest, the question lingers: will the Packers ride with the steady veteran or the rising star? Will they play it safe or lean into the bold move that already may have saved their season? Join the conversation, share your take on the Packers' kicking dilemma and what it means for their playoff hopes. Follow for deeper analysis, breaking reports, and insider stories from around the league. Because in the NFL, every play tells a story, and every decision, no matter how small, can change everything.